If you think you're too late, I want to remind you, it is your right to be rich. If you think you're too late, I want to remind you, you can astonish yourself at what you can accomplish in 1 year. If you put down the story that you aren't good enough or money's bad or it's just the way it is, if you stop accepting the life that you were given and remind yourself, go easy on yourself, but remind yourself, it is your right to be rich. Welcome back, beautiful soul subscribers, 600,000 plus from all over the world. And if you're new here, I want to welcome you to this video. My name is Jake Ducey, and before we get into this, if you haven't yet, be sure you get my free financial success hypnosis. It's right there down below, pinned to the comments and in the description, right there down below to reprogram your subconscious mind to attract the abundance you want. All right, so the truth is that most people, statistically speaking, are financially behind in life. We know that about 70% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck. We know that the average individual is about $10,000 in credit card debt. If that's you, it's not the end of the world. There was a time when I was so behind financially with my wife. She was in credit card debt for basic stuff because I couldn't get any breakthroughs in my life. But instead of dealing with it, what I did is I would just go, you know, money's not that important. At least I'm happy. As if happiness is some consolation prize to having no freedom. So what I was doing was justifying it. And the very first thing that has to happen is you have to stop justifying it. When you stop justifying it, that's when you can free yourself from it. The longer you justify it, the longer you spend your life in debt, the longer you spend your life in paycheck servitude, where you're just making enough to keep going, but never enough to have any freedom. So you have to stop rationalizing. And then the next thing is to understand that it's actually not as hard as you think. It's actually just as hard to be broke as it is to not be broke. Because all it is a collection of habits. And when you understand that, there's a quote by Tony Robbins. He says that most people overestimate what they can accomplish in a year and they underestimate what they can accomplish in 10. Even at your current income level, if you just make a couple shifts, in 10 years, you're gonna be so much further ahead financially than you were the last 10 years. So you have to let go. You have to forgive yourself. And then the next thing is to give yourself a taste of it. Give yourself a little taste of it. So what my wife and I started doing, because we felt like we were always broke and we could never do what we wanted to go travel, we wanted to go spend the summer hiking in the wilderness, we didn't have any money. And so we started doing something we called the splurge account or a blow it account. And so what we started to do was take a little percentage of our money and go spend that feeling rich. We'd spend one night at a nice hotel on the beach in Ventura, California, and we didn't have enough money for a nice restaurant too, so we'd bring a burner plate and we would just cook our own pasta or our own quinoa in the room. But we felt rich. And so what happened was, instead of constantly feeling broke, we started to get a taste of what it felt like to have freedom. And then we started to think, well, wow, this does fit us. We can do this. And so find those little things, whether it's a splurge account or a bloat account, or you go to a really nice hotel, a 5-star hotel in your town, and you just go sit at the coffee shop and you work out of it. Do things that break you out of the constant feelings of being broke or behind financially that are reinforced in your everyday environment. Shift your environment any way you can in little ways, even if it's just a bloat account, that every 30 days you do something, you go get a massage where before you said I couldn't afford it, but instead you take 5% of your money and you go blow it. And what this also does is it changes your relationship with money. Because when you're behind financially, there's a tendency to justify it, like we said earlier. And when you have a tendency to justify it, what happens is you change the definition of money in your head as a self-protective mechanism to justify and feel better about why you are where you are financially. So for me, what I would do is I would say, money sucks, it's not that important, I don't need it, I don't need any of it. But what would happen was then I built a negative relationship with money. And so what I was subconsciously telling myself is money is bad, money is evil, money is wrong, and I don't need it. Your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And so what happens as you feel behind financially, you might have a tendency to subconsciously protect yourself from those feelings. And in order to do that, you build a story about it, or a story about money, or a story about the things that you want. Well, I don't really want that bad anyways. I don't really want that bad anyways. I don't really want that bad anyways. But your subconscious doesn't know the difference between what's real and what's not real. And so your subconscious starts to believe it. And so subconsciously, you've programmed the supercomputer of your mind to say, I don't need it and I don't want it. And when you program it to say it, I don't need it and I don't want it, what happens is, even if you consciously start to get motivated and excited and you watch this video and you go, I'm gonna change my financial life, you've subconsciously built an association that you don't need money. And so using the splurge account and using ways that start to change your immediate environment and change your association with money, you start to repattern it, and then you start to tell your subconscious, yes, money's good, money's friendly, money equals freedom. And then what happens is you're no longer swimming upstream. Your subconscious becomes a current in which you can move with, where your conscious actions and your conscious behaviors match your subconscious beliefs and your subconscious programming. And this is the key to start to make more money. Now, the next thing to keep in your mind is asking yourself, how do I treat money? When I didn't have any money, I would not only, as I said, justify the fact that I didn't have it, but I would justify my behaviors with the money I got. So let's say I got $1,000. I would just spend it all because I would say, well, I don't have any money, I might as well spend it. But when you do this, you're really reinforcing your own poverty and your own financial limitations. If you were someone with money, would you just spend it all and the credit card? No, you wouldn't. And so money has ears and it hears when you call it. It sounds like a stupid cliche statement, right? Money has ears and it hears when you call it. Just yodel for it. Money, 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 right? But think about it from a consciousness perspective. Money has ears and it hears when you call it. What this means is, let's say you get $1,000 in. If you spend all that money because you say, well, I don't have any, then you're just reinforcing the same thing. It's like hitting the gas in a car that's in the mud, but it's only a two-wheel drive. You just get your car deeper and deeper and deeper. What has to happen is you have to start respecting it. And the way that you do this is to change your self-image of yourself. You view yourself as somebody who has no money. The way you change this is to start to accumulate money. And you do this simply by saving. It's a small amount at first. It might be $5, it might be $10, it might be $100. But this becomes an energy weight that starts to change your own self-image with respect to money. So I started saving the little money that I had. $100 here, $50 here, $25 here. The next thing I knew, I had $1,000. Woo! It might have as well been $1 million. What did this do? It did two things. One, it got rid of the idea that, well, I don't have any money, so I'm gonna spend it all. Instead, what it did, it said, well, I have $1,000 coming in and I automatically saved 30%. I only have $700 left. Well, there's two things. I could spend my savings, or I could realize that the problem is not that I'm saving money. The problem is that I haven't shifted my mindset to earn more money. And so what happens is it forces you to get creative about ways to increase your income. In the financial world, so much of the focus is on ways to save more money and hacks, and you don't get your latte. All these little things can be great and they can be useful to get yourself off the ground. But when you're so focused on constriction, what happens is there's no room for expansion. So start putting money away so you begin to view yourself as someone who can accumulate it. And what you find out is it's just as easy as walking. First you get 1,000, then you get 2,000, then you get 3,000, then you get 4,000, then you get 10, then you get 100, then you can get 1,000,000. It's the exact same process, but it comes from when you finally put your foot in the stand, and instead of saying, well, I'm broke, I'm gonna spend it all, you say, I am no longer going to be broke, and this is the moment I start to change my life financially. Now let's wrap it up like this. You have to go easy on yourself. You don't have money not because you're stupid. You don't have money not because you're dumb, not because you aren't good enough, not because it's too hard, not because it's not possible, but just because you've been on the wrong roadmap. That's it. The roadmap you've been on has said, spend all the money you make, or I can't earn more, or money's not that important, or whatever it is, whatever your roadmap is. So then the next question is, what's a better roadmap for me to be on? And then you can start to rewrite your own belief systems. That's why I'm so big on success hypnosis. You can use mine right there down below. It's jakeshypnosis.com. It's my free financial success hypnosis, because my roadmap was, well, what if I finally take my life seriously and it doesn't work out? So instead of giving my talents with love and being wonderfully blessed financially, I gave my talents with fear that I wouldn't get enough back. And then, because my whole life is a mirror that reflects back to me my innermost feelings, I always got that back. So I started changing it. I started saying, I give my talents with love and I'm wonderfully blessed financially. I give my talents with love. You can comment that down below. I give my talents with love and I'm wonderfully blessed financially. All of that is in my free success hypnosis right there down below. Now that's point number one. It gets you onto the right roadmap. But then the next thing is to take inventory of your roadmap itself. Is the occupation you're in have a hard ceiling? If the occupation you're in has a hard ceiling with no upside, it doesn't mean you need to quit it today, but you have to start thinking about how you can shift your roadmap. Does it mean that you have a talent or skill and you can go into business for yourself? Is there a new service that you can provide in addition to your existing one? Is there a side hustle you can start to build? Have you always wanted to be an artist? Have you always wanted to be a life coach? Have you always wanted to write a book? Do you have some ideas for consulting that you could do, but you've never done? And what you're doing here is you're raising your income ceiling. I like to call it your income ceiling because that's all your income is. That's all your job is. Everyone has a different ceiling. And the question is, how high does the ceiling go? But what happens is, if you never ask yourself that, you can work harder and harder and harder and harder and harder. But if the ceiling's right here and you're just jumping up into it over and over and over again, what happens is you eventually get to a point where you look at the results that you're getting and they aren't mirroring your effort and you go, well, it's not possible. So ask yourself, what roadmap can you shift on that increases your leverage, that increases your scale, and it makes the most use of your interests, skills, and talents? Now, last but not least, let's just remember this. If you're behind financially, keep this in mind. We live in an infinite universe. This is the best time in human history to be alive. There's a lot of crazy stuff happening, right? But don't forget, this is the best. Imagine being born 400 years ago. It would have sucked. I'm really glad I was not born 400 years ago. This is the best time in human history to be alive. I personally believe, now I'm not telling you to believe this, but I personally believe that there's a higher power and that we're all one with it. And this higher power gives us all the ideas. It's created everything. It's created first-class flights. It's created beautiful homes with great views. It's created the internet so you can basically monetize any passion, pursue your dreams. And it's created all these things. It hasn't created them just so you can be like, well, I'm not good enough for them. It's created them for us to experience it. Don't you think if God inspired someone to create airplanes and ultimately first-class flights and beautiful homes, don't you think God wants you to experience those things? I personally believe that. I believe it's our right to be rich, not so we can accumulate money, but so we can realize that we're made in the image of God, and part of our mission in life, part of your mission, is to glorify God, the image of God in which you're created. When I'm driving my favorite sports car with the top down, which was my favorite thing to do in San Diego with the fog and it's cold and I put my seat heater on, I didn't think like, damn, I'm freaking cool with the car. I thought, shit, God is so beautiful. This cold air feels so good with the seat warmer. This makes me closer to God. I'd get out of the car, I'd feel great. I'd send that energy into the first person that I saw. I believe God wants us to have those things. I believe that God wants you to have financial freedom. I believe God wants to use you as an instrument and as a vessel and as a tool. Not only so that you're lit up with the spark of God, but so that you can employ others, so that you can help your friends and your family that can't do it, so you could put your kids into better school, so you could have life insurance in case you die, your family's protected, whatever it is. I believe God wants us to have these things. And I believe God created these things so we can live a fuller life. And when you embrace that, instead of suffocate it, because religions and all of society has taught us that desire is bad, it's taught us to be these little meek creatures, and it's taught us that our desires are somehow bad. But the word desire means of the Father in Latin. Your desire for more wealth, for more freedom, is really God moving a desire through you for your ultimate desire, which is to experience more life. And when you understand this, you start to realize that money is a spiritual energy just like everything else. There's nothing bad with it. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, you can do more good in the world if you have it. And when you make this shift in your mindset, no matter what you're doing, you will start to create more success at it. So remind yourself, I am made in the image of God. I live in an infinite universe, and it is my right to be rich. So if you believe that it is your right to be rich and that you're a divine being, make sure you get my free financial success hypnosis to encode that into your subconscious mind. It's pinned to the comments and in the description right there down below. If you believe that it is your right to be rich and this is the best time in human history to be alive, make sure you hit the like button on this video. Give me a comment down below that says it's my right to be rich. If you haven't yet, there's a little bell notification. Make sure you hit that because that's what notifies you for new episodes. Let me know where in the world you're coming from. I am in the beautiful Southwest of the United States. I'd love to know what city, what state, what country, where in the world, or what other galaxy you're coming from. You can let me know in the comments right there down below. And remember, it's not too late. In 1 year, if you make this shift, you get on the right roadmap and you start to change some of those governing beliefs that you have about money, I promise you, you can shock yourself at what you can accomplish.